The Atacama Desert in northern Chile is one of the most wondrous sights in the southern hemisphere. Huge expanses of sand and rock formations sit under brilliant blue skies. Day or night, it offers one of nature's most spectacular vistas. But there is a blight on the desert on the outskirts of the city of Iquique: 35,000 tons of discarded, dirty clothes. And the pile is just getting bigger. Most of the clothes are unsold second-hand items that are imported into the country in huge pacas, or bales of discarded clothing imported to Chile from Asia, Turkey, Europe, and the United States. Old t-shirts and jeans, beaten-up sneakers, a lady's sandal. Tons and tons of clothes, once shiny and new, now sitting under the hot desert sun. The used clothing enters the country through a free trade zone in Iquique, meaning no import duties are paid. It is then sold in open-air markets around the country. But there is so much of it left over that every year this pile of used clothes in the desert grows by the ton.
Verdes, rosados. Y al principio teníamos 8 colores.
Rosario Evia is a fashion recycler and activist.
We're importing around, yearly, 59,000 tons. Out of that, they estimate that 20,000 tons are sold in the second-hand market. So we have an economy here. It's really good for us because people, they buy clothing in fardos. I don't know what's the name in English. They buy clothing and they resell it, making clothing more accessible for people that have less purchasing power. But the problem is that they import much more than what they sell, and what they don't sell, they end up dumping in the desert.
Chile's lax import laws and no duties on items shipped to the free trade zone around Iquique allow for the arrival of bale after bale of used clothing. Activists say the developed world is using Chile as a dumping ground for its discarded clothing.
I think it's the lack of traceability and of, I don't know if law enforcement is the word, but basically people started importing secondhand clothing and they started selling what they wanted to sell and dumping in the desert what they didn't want to sell. And since other countries in the world started to put in import policies and forbidding secondhand clothing to enter their countries, more and more clothing were circling the world, and it ended up coming here in Chile because we didn't have any import policy that forbid people to import more than what they sell.
The dump keeps getting bigger and bigger, and environmentalists are concerned not only about the blight on the landscape, but about the possibility of toxic fumes emanating from items that contain plastic fibers as they sit in the sun for months on end. But importers of the clothing say the practice actually helps the environment. Samet Hoser is a Turkish national who set up an import operation in Iquique.
Sí, nosotros estamos por aquí, empresa reciclaje, estamos seleccionando ropa y seleccionamos, separamos por ítem. Lo que viene ropa surtida, nosotros separamos. Final de nuestro proceso, aquí voy a mostrar, por ejemplo, lo que salen cartones, separamos. Lo que salen bolsas plásticas, separamos. Lo que no me sirve, como por ejemplo, van a material limpieza, como wipe, polera wipe, final van a empresa de limpieza. Y no piensan que por aquí empresa están comprando ropa, botando desierto. No es así, no es así.
He says the problem lies in consumer habits, people buying and using too much cheap, easily discarded clothing.
Demasiado consumo. Me están hablando fast fashion, ¿no? Ropa que consumen en general, están hablando últimamente. Y de verdad me parece ese problema del mundo. Es el problema del mundo. No ni Atacama, ni Iquique, ni Chile. Problema del mundo. Aquí lo que pasa son muy visibles. Muy visibles. No solamente problema de ropa, de neumáticos, batería y aceite usado. Nadie habla de eso, ¿no?
Paola Souza has taken advantage of the influx of used clothes. For years now, she and two friends have spent weekends burrowing through bales of clothing to find items they can resell.
Cachurear. Claro, es como, por ejemplo, hay un lote de ropa en el piso y uno se mete dentro de esa ropa a elegir de todo tipo. Claro, eso es cachurear. La mayoría de veces se hace en el agro, en terminal agro. Ahí siempre el agro se encarga más que nada de los fardos, venden muchos fardos. Ellos ponen un montón de ropa y todos se tiran encima a seleccionar lo mejor.
They then take the clothes to market.
Nos dedicábamos a vender sábado y domingo. Cuando estábamos sin trabajo, veníamos en la semana también. Y en ese periodo también comprábamos lo que era, bueno, en ese momento igual comprábamos fardos pequeños que venían por internet. Comprábamos, o sea, gente también que nos regalaba ropa, familiares, todo. Y bueno, nos encargamos de darnos todo el tiempo.
But even though tons of used clothes are sold and resold in Iquique and around the country, the sheer volume of discarded items shipped into Chile makes their long-term disposal a bigger problem. Patricio Ferreira is the mayor of Alto Hospicio, a suburb of Iquique that hosts a huge dump of used clothing.
Sin lugar a duda que es un tremendo problema el que nosotros tenemos acá y que esto que partió con buenas intenciones en algún minuto se transformó en algo muy nocivo, ¿no? Sobre todo para el medio ambiente. Hoy día nosotros tenemos una cantidad de suelo contaminado producto de esta ropa, de esta basura, porque es basura, la basura del mundo, aquí en esta ciudad, producto justamente de que aquí tenemos un sistema de zona franca que permite hacer este tipo de negocio, que insisto que tiene una buena intención en su origen. Tal como usted lo indicó, la idea era de que, entiendo yo, de que las personas pudieran tener acceso a comprar ropa y telas de segunda mano, ¿no? A un precio módico, un precio más barato y que además también se pueda reutilizar. Pero ¿qué es lo que sucedió a nuestro juicio? Creemos que esto realmente desbordó la legalidad y hoy día lo que está sucediendo con los empresarios y también con Zona Franca es que están trayendo la basura del mundo. Se están aprovechando de algo que era inicialmente positivo con algo que es totalmente negativo.
Importers see things differently. They say they're recycling items that would otherwise simply be waste. But activists say solutions are twofold. The government has to create ways to prevent the massive influx of used clothes, and people have to change their buying habits when it comes to cheap disposable clothing.
The thing is the amount of clothes we import, and that we have to legislate how much you import. So you could have quotas, so you can only import as much as you sold last year, for instance, or you can import freely, but you have to have the traceability that everything that you imported, you sold, or if you didn't sell, you have in storage, but not dumped in the desert. So that's one thing. But the other problem we have here is we have like a massive overconsumption. So people, they buy more and more because of this phenomena, the fast fashion industry, whatever, and then they don't know what to do with their clothing. So that's a different problem. So first, the import thing, like regulate it. And the other thing, we have to educate. We have to educate people. Like if you're going to buy, you're responsible for your items.
But Rosario goes beyond that. Her company, Ecositex, transforms discarded used clothing into high-end yarn and cloth that is sold for reuse. She says people have had to reshape their concept of what to do with discarded clothes.
We get the clothing and we reuse what is in good shape. What is not in good shape, we try to transform in other products, and only the textile that is really in ill condition, we then recycle it. So for people that doesn't know our process, what we do is we select hand by hand, item by item. We select it for the color, and after that we cut it, we shred it, and then we turn it back to yarn. The problem is that the process is expensive. So it's not something really cheap, so we need willingness to pay. So either you're willing to pay for your recycling or you're willing to pay for the yarn. But people nowadays, they're so like, they have this weird conception that throwing their garbage away should be free. And it's like, so a lot of companies contact us like, I want to be sustainable, so I want to give you my old clothing, so for you to take care of it. I go, okay, that has a cost. So this is what I will charge you for the service. Oh, really? I thought it was free because I'm giving you your raw material. And I go like, it doesn't work like that. This is a service.
Experts say initiatives like recycling, transforming discarded clothes into new items, or offering old clothes for resale are on the right track. It is the right idea, but they seem like drops in a bucket compared to the sheer amount of clothes that end up in the desert. Something that will only change if people's habits and relationship to their environment change as well.